Lars Larson joins us now. Lars, there are a lot of things that stood out to me from the announcement of this mega drug bust. But maybe at the top of the list, and I don't think anybody's talking about this, is the cooperation between all of those three-letter agencies working together, because it feels like within the law enforcement community, traditionally, there have been a lot of turf wars. Feels like we're seeing less of that in this round of the Trump administration. A lot of consolidation, a lot of multi-agency task force, and everybody kind of marching to the beat of the same drummer.
I think it's a great idea. And the fact is, the problem of siloing. Look, we're coming up on the anniversary of 9/11 in a few months. And there was a problem with siloing there. They would have siloed information and then siloed information in another agency, and the two agencies didn't talk to each other, and we ended up with thousands of people dead as a result. It applies at all levels of government. If the state police aren't talking to the county police in Mississippi, that's probably not a good idea, and it's not going to work out well, and it's going to end up hurting people. So it's great to see all those agencies working together. What I find disturbing is you live in a red state. I live in a blue state. I've lived here for a long time, state of Washington. And unfortunately, all the local law enforcement have said, we're not going to cooperate with Donald Trump because our political masters, the governor, the mayors, the city councils, the legislature have said, you are not to cooperate with the federal law enforcement agencies on immigration issues in particular. But that ties right into law enforcement. Because this biggest drug bust in history that was made with the ringleader, the alleged ringleader, I guess I should say, living in the capital city of the state of Oregon, about 50 miles from where I'm standing. And this guy was sitting there with $2.8 million in cash and guns and cars and everything else, big drug kingpin from the Sinaloa Cartel. He didn't have any of the drugs around him, which is probably the way smart drug kingpins operate. You keep the cash and the guns and all that, but you have the product somewhere else. He was distributing it all over the western United States. And why had he chosen a state like Oregon? He could have just as easily chose Washington because, number one, Oregon legalized hard drugs 100% and only pulled back from that a bit about a year ago. So that hard drugs, things like cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin are all basically legal. The consequences you see if you're arrested is you are put into a diversion program and nothing much happens to you. So the drugs are legal effectively. Illegal aliens are legal effectively because law enforcement is told, don't tell the feds anything. And if you do, Richard, it's this bad. There have been a few cops who will pick up the phone and say, we just picked up a real bad one. And they call a buddy at ICE and say, you could come down and pick this guy up and take him out of the country. And they get fired for that, Richard. I'm not exaggerating. It's that bad. So nice to see the cooperation at many levels. Terrible that about half the states, the blue states in America, have said by law, we will not cooperate with the feds. And I think Donald Trump is going to use the hammer of federal funding to say, if you don't want to cooperate, you don't get the money.
And it's interesting how different stories are kind of interconnected. You have the George Soros story with his open secret society and all of the money that's been funneled to those organizations to make sure that district attorneys and judges are liberal. And they've had a lot of success with that. It was a long-term play, though we have since found out that a lot of the money was not actually coming out of George Soros's pocket. It was coming through USAID, which means taxpayers indirectly were funding much of this operation. And you got the story 2 days ago of University of Washington campus with Antifa there, insurrection happening there. Yesterday you get the Columbia University story where you've got pro-Palestine or anti-Israel, depending on how you want to classify them, protests that are happening again. Is the way that some of these things are being tamped out now versus a couple of years ago when we saw so much of this, is that changing? Does that go into what you're talking about with regard to funding?
It is. And let me tell you something. About 10 miles from where I'm standing, pro-Palestine, meaning pro-Hamas protesters
Mm-hmm.
did over $1 million damage to a university library, and there were almost no consequences. And the university administration deliberately allowed it to happen. I mean, I'm not saying they went down and actually did the damage themselves, but when students and non-students came onto campus, took over a building, held the building for days in a siege with police, and the university told the police, hold off, don't go in and act against these young people. And they did over $1 million damage. University of Washington had a brand spanking new engineering building that had just been opened. It was so brand new that a lot of the lab equipment was still wrapped up in plastic and boxed up, hadn't even been installed. The building cost $150 million. These idiots did $1 million damage. And in the name of what? A non-existent country called Palestine that never has existed, and as near as I can tell, it never will. They really don't care if Palestine exists. They want to kill all the Jews, and it is an anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, and ultimately anti-American movement. Don't make any mistake about it. If you think, well, I'm not Jewish, I'm Christian, but I'm not Jewish, I don't care about this, you should care about it, because the same folks that these kids are supporting in Hamas, in Hezbollah, and the Houthis, they are just as anti-American and anti-Christian as they are anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. So don't make the mistake of thinking I don't have a dog in the fight.
You know, Fox News, not propping them up at all, but I did a Google search on Columbia protest, and I found a dozen news stories, and 11 of the 12 news stories referred to the, air quotes, protesters as pro-Palestine. Fox News was the only one that called them anti-Israel protesters.
Yep.
I don't know if that means anything, but it feels
intentional. It does. It does, because what we call things actually makes a difference in the debate. If I can go back to that Sinaloa drug cartel guy for a moment, the paper in the capital city of Oregon that covered the story of a twice deported illegal alien Mexican national, alleged drug kingpin for the Sinaloa Cartel, doing at least tens of millions of dollars of damage and bringing in tens of millions of fatal doses of fentanyl to our country, described that guy, this twice deported illegal alien drug dealer, alleged, as a Salem man 6 times in the story. Do you know the words that never appeared? Deport. They managed to describe his legal removal from the United States, and they went the long way around so they could say he has twice been legally ordered to be removed from the United States. Never want to use the D word, deport. Never use the word illegal. Never use the word alien. And called him a Salem man, the same way the media was calling Kilmar Abrego Garcia a Maryland man, a loving and devoted father, blah, blah, blah. You know, it does matter what you call
clam
things.
Chowder.
Yeah, exactly. And all you're doing is you're instructing people, this is a good guy. Well, what kind of good guy? Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy who beats his wife, the guy who takes 8 illegal aliens or 7 illegal aliens in a minivan and traffics them into the United States to earn cash, that kind of guy, that kind of Maryland man. And this has become a regular thing with the media. And it really, look, I was a reporter for 20 years. I hate the idea that reporters are deliberately using the language and the way they say words to be able to communicate a message. A drug kingpin is a good man.
I mean, all you can do is shake your head. I mean, I laughed a second ago when you were describing that, but not because it's funny, but you know, it's simply where we are.
What are you going to do? I mean, if you had a family in Mississippi who has a non-working deadbeat drunk in the family, but they chose to call him, well, Uncle Joe has some problems, and he has not found a good way to occupy his time lately. You mean he's a deadbeat drunk who doesn't work and doesn't pay his bills? Oh, no, but we never call it that. We say that he has some issues and that he hasn't yet found the right occupation for his talents. Oh, well, that's a great way to describe a deadbeat drunk, if you want to call it that way. When people engage in that kind of dishonesty on a personal level, you might shake your head. I laugh, shake your head, and I don't want to have anything to do with people who want to paper a problem over that way. By the way, can I say congratulations that the thing you've been talking about it, I know, but the Mississippi Miracle with Education, I've been talking about that for the last couple of years. Tate Reeves has been on the show a couple of times, and it is truly a miracle. And finally, a bunch of the rest of the mainstream media is recognizing.
I got one more question for you on the other side of this
Sure.
break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross,
Right.
Super Talk Mississippi with Lars Larson. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Lars Larson is my guest, host of the Lars Larson Show, which you can hear right here on Super Talk Mississippi, starting at 6 o'clock on weekday nights. Lars, you referenced the Mississippi Miracle, and, you know, even within the state of Mississippi, there has at times been pushback, and people say, they've had fun with numbers on the way these test scores are calculated and the way they're tabulated. Even if you concede that point and you say, okay, maybe that's true, it's still being compared in a fun with numbers way, if you believe that, with the rest of the country. And progress has been made, significant progress has been made in a state that has a reputation traditionally for being at the bottom near every educational ranking.
Well, and think about it, Richard. Just a small number of years ago, Mississippi was at the bottom of things like NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress. It is now near the top or at the top compared to the rest of the country, and you've done it without the usual prescription, which is the prescription we hear from the most powerful union in America, the teachers union. You have to give us more money. We're doing a bad job, and we'll do a better job if you pay us more money. And then more money is ladled on. State of Washington has actually doubled education spending, the state I live in the last 10 years, doubled it. And you know what's happened to test scores? They still keep going down. So how do you explain that it's not the money you have, it's how you use it? And Mississippi has figured out the formula. So like you said, if Mississippi isn't number one, but it's number 5, but it went from the bottom to number 5, if you don't believe that they went to number 1, it's good result.
You know what? There's one more thing that's not being talked about in this, and that is Mississippi school children went back to school faster than almost anywhere else in the country post-COVID. Now, yes, you had mask mandates in place. Yes, there were protections and all of those things. But this whole idea of sitting out of school for a year and a half did not happen in Mississippi.
No, it didn't. And think about, I'm going to say it. I know teachers don't like when I do, but think how greedy it is that your union says we want to be paid. Tell us that we don't have to go back to work and we still get the check. An awful lot of Americans were out of their jobs and they didn't get checks. Some got unemployment, a few got stimulus checks, but how many people got paid their full wage to not do their job? And the end result for kids, I kept saying in the first couple of years afterwards, Richard, I said, okay, if you've let the kids fall behind, let's have the teachers work all summer with all the kids, not just a few kids at summer school, and get them caught up. And the union said, only if you pay us more money. I got to tell you something, all the tradesmen I do business with, if somebody says, I didn't finish that job, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish it, and I don't care how many hours it takes me to finish that job, I promised you I'd do a job for an amount of money that you agreed to. You've paid the money. I didn't finish the job. It's on me to finish the job. How is it that we exempt one particular category from people of saying we want to be paid more to go back and finish the job we didn't do?
Yeah. Though I will defend teachers in our home state of Mississippi who are working hard. They've gotten a little bit of a bump. They're still near the bottom of the pay scale nationally, but I think there's a lot of good happening with teachers in the state of Mississippi. Last thing I want to ask you about this morning, Lars.
Sure.
We've got this announcement coming from the White House, 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock on the East Coast today. It is supposed to be a big trade announcement. It is reported that this is going to be a trade alliance with the United Kingdom. Is this a significant first step in terms of these announcements and getting aligned or more aligned on trade with partners globally?
I think it is because look what's going to happen. We get this big trade deal, and a bunch of countries came to the United States days after Trump announced the tariffs. And right now, everything we're hearing coming out of communist China is that country is in trouble. It's on the ropes, and they're suffering from it badly. Most Americans are just anticipating what it might do to them. It's happening in China right now, and China needs America more than America needs China. We can buy cheap stuff from a lot of other places on the globe other than China. So you get this trade alliance forming. It's not only a good deal with our trade with Great Britain, but it's also a great deal because it sends a message to China. Do you want to be on the train or get run over by it?
What's coming up tonight on the Lars Larson Show?
No, I've just started putting it together. It's early on the left coast, but we will have the best guests. We've got lots of, and I love getting calls from Mississippi. I even get some great naysayers from Mississippi, so it's fun.
I love it. We always enjoy listening, Lars. Thanks so much for your time this morning. We'll talk again soon.
My pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show. You can hear it right here on SuperTalk Mississippi starting at 6 o'clock on weekday